Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled within Enugu, Nigeria, resided Kachi, a young girl, and her mother Ozioma, affectionately recognized as Nwonyi Akara. Their tranquil abode was situated in Udi, amidst serene landscapes and a vibrant community. They were known for selling delicious akara. Kachi's father had passed away shortly after her birth, leaving Ozioma to shoulder the responsibility of raising their daughter alone. Despite the hardships they faced, Ozioma was determined to ensure that Kachi never felt the absence of a fatherly presence in her life. She poured her heart and soul into their small business, waking up early to prepare fresh akara and setting up their stall at the heart of the village market. Villagers aware of Ozioma's widowhood and her determination to provide for Kachi consistently patronized their store. They not only enjoyed the delicious akara but also appreciated the bond of friendship and care that Ozioma fostered with every customer. Kachi, wanting to help as much as she could, would take a portion of the freshly fried akara to sell around the village. She walked through familiar paths with a tree balanced carefully, her steps small and determined. Each sale she made felt like a contribution to their small family's livelihood, easing the burden on her mother's shoulders. As dusk settled over the village and the last rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains, Ozioma would prepare a simple supper for herself and Kachi. They would eat together at their worn wooden table, sharing stories of the day's events and the small victories they had achieved. However, fate took a cruel turn. One evening, as rain clouds gathered overhead, Kachi insisted on taking a tray of akara to sell around the village. Ozioma, initially hesitant due to the worsening weather, finally relented, knowing her daughter's determination to help. As Kachi hurried through the village lanes, rain began to pour in sheets, obscuring her vision. The sound of thunder drowned out her footsteps as she struggled to balance the tray. In her haste to return home, her foot slipped on the slick pavement just as a speeding village truck turned the corner. Villagers rushed to the scene of the accident, but it was too late. Kachi, her vibrant spirit extinguished in an instant, lay lifeless on the rain-soaked ground. When the villagers discovered Kachi lying lifeless on the rain-soaked ground, a heavy silence descended upon the bustling village. Their hearts sank as they gathered around, their faces etched with sorrow and disbelief. Kachi, known for her cheerful spirit and helpful nature, now lay still before them, a tragic victim of the day's harsh weather. Ozioma, waiting anxiously at home, felt a chill in her heart as if something terrible had happened the instant Kachi, her most valued possession, had died. The news spread like wildfire through the village. Villagers who heard about it rushed to the scene of the accident. When the tragic news finally reached Ozioma's ears, the world seemed to come crashing down around her. A piercing scream tore through the air as she collapsed to her knees, her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. The villagers, heartbroken themselves but resolute in their support, rushed to Ozioma's side. They enveloped her in their embrace, offering words of comfort amidst their own tears. The night of Kachi's tragic accident was one of unbearable anguish for Ozioma. As rain poured relentlessly outside, she sat in their small home, clutching Kachi's favorite scarf to her chest. The weight of grief pressed upon her heart like a crushing boulder, leaving her gasping for breath between sobs. "Kachi, my dear Kachi," Ozioma cried out into the darkness, her voice hoarse with sorrow. "Come back to me, my child. Please come back." As the rain poured down in torrents on the night of Kachi's tragic accident, her spirit, confused and desperate, found itself in a state of unrest. She wandered through the village streets, tears blending seamlessly with raindrops, her heart heavy with the weight of her mother's grief. "Please, someone help me," Kachi cried out, her voice carrying through the downpour. She ran up to villagers she recognized, pleading for their assistance. "Please, help me talk to my mother. She's crying, and I need to tell her I'm okay." But to Kachi's dismay, her words fell on deaf ears. The villagers walked past her, oblivious to her presence as they hurried home to seek shelter from the storm. Kachi's spirit, unseen and unheard, grew increasingly frantic as she searched desperately for a way to reach her grieving mother. Kachi's spirit felt an unyielding desire to comfort her grieving mother. In the realm beyond, where spirits wander in a twilight between worlds, Kachi sought a way to return to the land of the living. As Kachi's spirit moved through the village, her desperation growing with each encounter where she went unnoticed, she stumbled upon a humble hut near the market. There, sitting in quiet contemplation, was an old man whose presence seemed to radiate wisdom and peace. His attire, a simple robe that glowed with a faint white light despite the darkness of the night. "Why do you wander about in tears, my child?" His voice was gentle yet carried a weight of authority that demanded attention as he called out to Kachi. Kachi's heart skipped a beat. She had not expected anyone to see her, let alone address her directly. She hesitated, unsure of how to respond, her voice barely a whisper. "Sir," Kachi began tentatively, her eyes filled with disbelief and hope. "You can see me." The old man nodded slowly, his expression filled with compassion. "Yes, my dear. I see you, and I sense your anguish. Tell me, what troubles your spirit?" Tears welled up in Kachi's eyes once more as she poured out her heart to the old man, recounting the tragic accident and her desperate attempts to reach her grieving mother. The old man listened attentively, nodding thoughtfully as he absorbed her tale of love and loss. "The bond between a mother and child is sacred indeed," the old man murmured, his voice tinged with sadness. "Your mother's heartache echoes through the village tonight." Kachi nodded, her spirit trembling with emotion. "I need to find a way to comfort her, to let her know that I'm okay." "My child," the old man began solemnly, "there is a distance, a dimension that separates the living from the dead. No one who has passed on can return to the land of the living." As the old man's words settled in, Kachi felt a wave of despair crash over her already shattered heart. The realization that Kachi could not physically return to her mother pierced her soul like a dagger. She screamed, a primal cry of anguish and disbelief that echoed through the night, mingling with the sound of raindrops hitting the roof. "However, there is a way," the old man began, his gaze steady as he looked into Kachi's eyes. Kachi's spirit quivered with anticipation, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and longing. What must I do?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. Kachi listened intently, her ethereal form shimmering with hope. "My dear child," the old man began, his voice a soothing balm to Kachi's restless soul, "there is a way I can empower you to continue to interact with the physical world, albeit in a limited manner." Kachi looked up with hopeful curiosity, her translucent form shimmering in the twilight. "I will make you possess the ability to move objects and influence things in your village," the old man continued, his tone gentle yet tinged with solemnity. "I can strengthen this connection, allowing you to manipulate objects and leave signs of your presence." However, the old man continued, his expression grave, "if you venture beyond the familiar borders of your village, the rules change. You may be able to manifest in your own form, but only in places where you are not known or recognized. If someone who knows you sees you and you make eye-to-eye connection, you will vanish and lose these abilities. A mixture of determination and caution filled Kachi's spirit as she absorbed the old man's words. The opportunity to bring comfort beyond her village came with a profound responsibility to remain unseen. "I understand," Kachi replied solemnly. "This," he explained, handing a vial substance to Kachi, "is a substance that will help you manifest more clearly in the physical world. Use it to wash your face and hands before you wish to exert your influence." Kachi nodded gratefully, a renewed sense of hope shining through her translucent form. "I will cherish this gift and use it wisely," she promised earnestly. "Remember," the old man added gently, "while you can manifest in your own form outside your village, you must be cautious. Avoid being seen by anyone who knows you, for it may cause you to lose both abilities." With the vial of strange white substance in her ethereal hands, Kachi felt a surge of anticipation and determination. She had been granted the ability to interact with the physical world, and now, armed with the old man's gift, she was ready to bring comfort to her grieving mother. As she floated swiftly through the familiar paths of her village, Kachi's spirit glowed with purpose. The streets, once bustling with villagers, now seemed quieter, enveloped in the solemnity of her mother's mourning. Finally, Kachi arrived at their small wooden house, where the faint scent of akara lingered in the air. Through the window, she saw her mother, Ozioma, sitting hunched over at their worn wooden table, tears streaming down her face. Her heart breaking at Ozioma's grief. Determined to comfort her, she took out the vial of substance the old man had given her. With trembling hands, she poured a few drops onto her ethereal palms and washed her face, feeling a surge of energy as her spirit became more tangible. Immediately she washed her face, Ozioma, her mother, felt a shiver run down her spine. Goosebumps prickled her arms, and an inexplicable sense of presence filled the room. She looked around, her eyes wide with both fear and hope, sensing something beyond the ordinary. "Kachi!" Ozioma stuttered, her voice trembling as she scanned the room. "Is that you?" Kachi wanted to see if her mother, Ozioma, could feel her presence. She focused on a small wooden figurine on a shelf in their home. With all her concentration, Kachi gently moved the figurine just a little. Kachi couldn't answer, but she moved the figurine again, this time more noticeably. It tipped slightly and then settled back into place. Ozioma gasped loudly and stumbled backward, knocking over her chair. She clutched her chest, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. No, this can't be real," Ozioma muttered to herself, her hands shaking as she glanced around the room. Kachi felt a pang of sadness. She hadn't meant to frighten her mother. Tears welled up in her eyes as she desperately tried to think of how to reassure her. With a gentle touch, Kachi closed the curtains, trying to calm the room. But Ozioma, already shaken, recoiled at the movement. "Please, stop," Ozioma pleaded, her voice trembling. "I can't handle this." Feeling helpless, Kachi floated near the window, watching her mother's distress with a heavy heart. She wished she could speak, to tell Ozioma that it was her, that she was still here and meant no harm. But Ozioma, overwhelmed with fear and grief, could only see the unsettling movement around her. She backed away, retreating to the corner of the room where she felt safe. As the first light of dawn crept into the room, Kachi felt a profound sadness wash over her ethereal form. She had hoped to comfort her mother, Ozioma, but instead, her attempt had only caused fear and confusion. Filled with a renewed sense of determination and longing to find a way to communicate with her mother, Kachi's spirit departed from Udi. She floated swiftly through the twilight realms, guided by a faint intuition toward a nearby village where she might try to manifest in her own form. Driven by an intense longing to find a way to communicate with her mother, Kachi arrived at the nearby village. She found a secluded spot where she could wash her face and hands with the remaining substance the old man had given her. As the cool liquid touched her ethereal form, Kachi felt a surge of energy and clarity. The mist that surrounded her began to shimmer and solidify, taking on the familiar shape of her own physical body. With renewed determination, Kachi headed towards the bustling market of the neighboring village. The streets were alive with villagers buying and selling goods, their voices blending into a lively symphony of everyday life. Kachi walked through the market, her heart racing with anticipation. She focused on a vendor's stall where a kind-faced woman was arranging colorful fruits. "Excuse me," Kachi began softly, her voice barely audible amidst the market's din. The young woman looked up, surprise flickering across her face as she noticed Kachi standing before her. "Hello," she greeted warmly, her eyes curious yet gentle. "Can I help you with something?" Kachi stunned that the woman could see and hear her. "I'm Kachi," she introduced herself, her translucent form shimmering in the sunlight. "I'm seeking your help, and also, I have a request, if you can allow me to work for you." The young woman's brow furrowed slightly in confusion. "You want to work for me?" she asked, trying to understand the situation. Kachi took a breath, summoning her courage. "Yes," she explained earnestly. "Where are your parents? Are they also vendors here in the market?" "No more. It's just been me and my sick mother, but we are not from this village. I need a job to support us, to take care of her." The vendor listened attentively, her expression filled with empathy. She nodded thoughtfully, understanding the weight of Kachi's words. "I see, Kachi," she replied gently, "and I would be honored to offer you a job at my stall. We could use an extra hand, especially during the busy market days. By the way, my name is Agnes." "Thank you, Madam Agnes," Kachi whispered softly, her voice carrying an ethereal echo that only Agnes could hear. "It means everything to me." Agnes, sensing Kachi's spirit, smiled warmly and nodded. "You're welcome, Kachi," she murmured softly, acknowledging the presence that brought a comforting breeze to the stall. 2 weeks had passed since Kachi started working with Madame Agnes at the fruit stall in the bustling market. In that time, Kachi had proven herself to be diligent, hardworking, and always willing to lend a helping hand. Despite the grief that still lingered in her heart, she found solace in the rhythm of the market and the camaraderie with her fellow vendors. Madame Agnes had taken notice of Kachi's dedication and the subtle yet profound change that had come over her stall. Customers commented on the vibrant energy that seemed to radiate from the fruits on display. The stall buzzed with renewed interest, drawing in more visitors than before. As the day drew to a close and the last customers left the market, Kachi finished tidying up the stall alongside Madame Agnes. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the market square as vendors began to pack up their goods. "Madame Agnes," Kachi began hesitantly, breaking the comfortable silence between them, "would it be possible for me to take the evening off?" Madame Agnes looked at Kachi with concern, her brow furrowing slightly. "Is everything all right, Kachi?" she asked gently. "Do you need some time?" Kachi nodded, her gaze softening. "Yes, Madame Agnes," she replied, her voice tinged with both sadness and hope. "My mother, she's been unwell. I haven't been able to spend much time with her lately, and I would like to visit her tonight." "Tonight?" Agnes asked. Isn't it late for you to make such journey? And by the way, you still haven't told me anything about your sick mom and where your village is situated. My village is nearby, Kachi replied. And once my mother recovers, I would bring her to visit you. Kachi, Madame Agnes said kindly, reaching behind her stall and picking up a basket filled with fresh fruits and some money. Please take this. For you and your mother. Kachi's eyes brightened with gratitude as she accepted the basket from Madame Agnes. Thank you so much, Madame Agnes, she replied warmly, her voice tinged with appreciation. Madame Agnes smiled warmly, her eyes reflecting genuine kindness. Take care of your mother, and don't hesitate to let me know if you need anything. As Kachi approached the entrance of her village, a strange sensation washed over her spirit form. It was as if the boundary between the living and the ethereal world blurred momentarily. With a shimmer, her translucent figure transformed into a spirit once more, empowered by the ability to touch only physical objects. As Kachi arrived at their familiar village, she noticed a quiet stillness hanging in the air, broken only by the soft rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. The small wooden house stood before her, its walls weathered by time but still standing strong. A pang of longing filled Kachi's ethereal form as she approached the door. She pushed it open with a gentle touch, the wood creaking softly as she entered. Inside, the familiar scent of home greeted her, a mixture of smoke from the cooking fire and the lingering aroma of akara. With a gentle touch, Kachi carefully lowered the basket of fresh fruits and money onto the worn wooden table. The fruits gleamed with vibrant colors, a gift from Madame Agnes, Kachi's employer at the neighboring village market. Kachi's ethereal form moved gracefully through the familiar rooms of their small wooden house. She felt a surge of determination to ease her mother's burden and bring comfort to their home. With a gentle touch, Kachi began to straighten the disheveled chairs and tidy the scattered akara ingredients on the kitchen counter. Her translucent fingers carefully arranged the cooking utensils, aligning them neatly. After cleaning, Kachi waited for her mother to return. As Ozioma stepped into the room, a sense of unease gripped her heart. Her eyes swept across the space, taking in the tidiness that contrasted starkly with how she had left it earlier. The scattered ingredients for akara were now neatly arranged, the chairs straightened, and the kitchen counter organized. A shiver ran down her spine as she whispered to herself, "Who could have done this?" She moved further into the room, her gaze drawn to the worn wooden table where something unexpected caught her eye, a basket overflowing with fresh, vibrant fruits, and beside it, a small pile of money neatly placed. Ozioma's breath caught in her throat as she felt a strange presence in the room, an inexplicable sensation that made her hair stand on end. Driven by an inexplicable need to escape the fear and uncertainty she had unintentionally caused, Kachi fled beyond the familiar borders of Woody. Guided by a faint memory of the old man's words and the remnants of the substance he had given her, she sought solace in the neighboring village. As the months passed, the mysterious events continued to unfold in Udi, leaving Ozioma both bewildered and grateful. Every few weeks, without fail, she would return home to find their modest wooden house transformed. The chairs would be neatly arranged, the kitchen counters tidied, and a basket overflowing with fresh fruits and a small pile of coins placed meticulously on the worn wooden table. Each time, Ozioma's heart would swell with a mix of emotions, astonishment at the inexplicable occurrences and a deep, unshakable gratitude that someone, or something, was looking out for them. The villagers, noticing Ozioma's newfound blessings, whispered amongst themselves, speculating about the source of these gifts. On a fateful market day, a man named Emeka from Kachi's village in Udi ventured into the bustling market. He had come seeking supplies for his family, navigating through the stalls until he found himself beside the very shop where Kachi now walked with Madam Agnes. As he made his purchases and prepared to leave, something caught his eye, an ethereal figure arranging fruits with a serene and familiar grace. His heart skipped a beat as he stared, disbelief washing over him. Could it be? Was it truly Kachi, the girl from his village who had tragically passed away? For a fleeting moment, he stood frozen in place, torn between the urge to approach and the instinctive fear of encountering a ghost or a mere resemblance of the dearly departed. His mind raced with questions, trying to reconcile what he saw with the reality he knew. With a heavy breath and a heart full of turmoil, he turned abruptly and hurried back to Udi, his steps quickening with each stride. He couldn't bring himself to confront Kachi or even speak of what he had witnessed. The encounter had shaken him to the core, stirring emotions and memories he thought had been laid to rest. Upon returning to Udi, Emeka's heart raced with a mix of disbelief and urgency. As he approached Odra's modest wooden house, his expression was etched with shock and confusion. Without hesitation, he knocked on the weathered door, his voice trembling as he called out for Ozioma. Oziom! Ozioma! His urgent tone carried through the quiet village streets, drawing curious neighbors who began to gather around, sensing something extraordinary unfolding. Ozioma, startled by the commotion, emerged from her home, her eyes widening in surprise at the sight of the man from her village. "What is it?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern and hope. Emeka took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly as he struggled to find the right words. I saw Kachi," he began, his voice barely above a whisper yet carrying with it the weight of undeniable truth. "In the neighboring village, I saw her there, alive and well." As the man from Kachi's village stood before Ozioma's house, his face contorted with the weight of the revelation he bore, the villagers who had gathered around began to exchange uneasy glances. Murmurs of disbelief and skepticism rippled through the crowd. "He's gone mad," whispered one elderly woman, shaking her head in dismay. "Talking about seeing the dead like that, it's not right," muttered a young man, his voice tinged with apprehension. Ozioma, still reeling from the shock of his words, felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Her heart pounded in her chest as she struggled to make sense of what was happening. Could it be true? Could Kachi really be alive in some form, beyond the realm of understanding? Why would you say such things? Ozioma's voice quivered with a mix of anguish and accusation, tears streaming down her face. "Why would you bring this torment upon me?" The man's expression softened, realizing the pain his revelation had caused. "Ozioma, I swear to you, I saw her," he pleaded earnestly, his voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't believe it myself, but she was there, arranging fruits in the market just like she used to." However, one elderly man, known for his gentle demeanor and wisdom, approached Ozioma cautiously. His weathered face bore the lines of a life lived with compassion and understanding, yet now it was etched with concern for the grieving mother before him. "Emeka," he began softly, his voice carrying the weight of years of experience, "are you sure you saw her?" "Yes, my elder. I saw her with my own two eyes." As the old elder listened to Emeka's sincere recounting of seeing Kachi in the neighboring village market, a thoughtful expression settled upon her face. She turned to the assembled villagers, their eyes fixed on her expectantly, and spoke with measured consideration. "If what Emeka says is true," the elder began, her voice carrying a tone of both caution and hope, then it would be wise for us to send a few trusted individuals to the neighboring village to confirm this sighting." The villagers nodded in agreement, their murmurs subdued yet filled with a mix of anticipation and disbelief. Ozioma, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and longing, stepped forward hesitantly, her voice trembling yet determined. I would like to go," Ozioma spoke softly, her gaze searching the elder's face for understanding. "If it is truly my daughter Kachi," she continued, her voice gaining strength with each word, "I want to see her again." "Ozioma," the old elder spoke gently, "prepare yourself. We will depart for the village shortly. Emeka will lead the way, and together, we will seek the truth of this matter." As they arrived in neighboring village, Emeka wasted no time leading the group straight to the bustling market. His steps were sure, guided by the memory of where he had seen Kachi. The villagers, including Ozioma, followed closely behind, their hearts heavy with anticipation and hope mingled with disbelief. Upon reaching the store where Emeka had spotted Kachi, a harsh silence fell over the group. From a distance, they could see a figure moving gracefully among the fruits, arranging them with a gentle touch. Emeka pointed silently, his expression a mix of awe and certainty. "There," Emeka whispered, barely audible yet carrying the weight of truth in his voice. "That's where I saw her." The villagers strained their eyes, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Ozioma's heart pounded in her chest as she squinted, trying to make out the features of the figure at the store. Her breath caught in her throat as she recognized the familiar gestures, the way Kachi used to move with such grace and purpose. "It can't be," Ozioma murmured, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and fear. Unable to contain her shock any longer, Ozioma's emotions overwhelmed her. She ran towards Kachi, her heart pounding in her chest, and called out her daughter's name with a faint yet loud cry. "Kachi!" The scream caught the attention of Kachi and the shoppers in the market. Startled, Kachi turned with haste, her eyes scanning the crowd, thinking it was a customer needing her attention. But as she looked up, her breath caught in her throat as she saw her mother rushing towards her. "Mom!" Kachi gasped, her voice barely audible amidst the bustling market noise. "Kachi, my daughter!" But in an instant, as Ozioma's words hung in the air, Kachi's form began to shimmer. The bustling market, Madame Agnes, the shoppers, and the villagers from Udi all watched in stunned silence as Kachi's figure vanished into the ether, like mist dispersing in the wind. In the bustling market of the village, where the day's transactions hummed with life and purpose, Kachi's sudden disappearance was a cataclysmic event that shattered the fabric of ordinary existence. As soon as Kachi vanished, everyone who witnessed the sight, including Agnes, the villagers, and the shoppers, all fled in fear. The only exception was Ozioma, who fainted. As the news of Kachi's inexplicable return and subsequent disappearance spread through Udi and the whole of Enugu and beyond like wildfire, it ignited a fervent debate among the villagers. Whispers echoed through the marketplaces and hushed conversations took place in the shadows of evening gatherings.